Alright, so we are going to be going over Amazing Spider-Man issue number 8 on the newer run of Amazing Spider-Man by, I think it's Joe Kelly and John Romita Jr. We are in the middle of a fight with a new, I guess he's a villain. I don't know if they were trying to make him a hero, a villain. I don't know. But he's in a fight with a new character named Hellgate. So we start off with him doing his best to kind of put a hurting on him. This is Central Park. What is it? 6:19 a.m. I think it's either 6 or 8. I think it's 6. So they're over here just going at it. Peter is seeing that he's not really doing any damage to him. He talks about getting this feeling that he hasn't had in a long time, being scared. It reminds me a lot of the fight he had with Moreland the first time that Moreland appeared, but I don't think this fight was done as well. So Joe Kelly, I think it's Joe Kelly. I can't remember, but anyway, the writer likes to do a lot of, in the middle of his story, he'll do flashbacks to when Peter was young. He's in earlier issues, he's done a lot where Peter was a mischief, maker, a troublemaker. I don't agree with that path for Peter because that's not how Peter was. I've been reading Spider-Man since '93, and I read all kinds of back issues, and Peter was never really a troublemaker. Peter was always the quiet nerd type, that never got in trouble. He was always getting bullied because he wouldn't do anything. This whole different route that, he's taken on writing Peter Parker, I'm not agreeing with, but it is what it is. Like, this flashback's not too terrible because it's Peter wants to learn karate and Uncle Ben's telling him, boxing is better basically. And they have kind of a little bonding moment, which is not, I don't see this as being tremendously out of Peter's character like some of this other stuff that he's done earlier in this title. This I feel like actually works for Peter because Uncle Ben basically tells him fighting ain't the purpose behind everything. You fight when you have to, but you run when there's no reason to fight. So Peter kind of debates with that this whole entire fight of trying to pick when the moment to run is and when the moment to stand up and fight is. And Peter gets beat pretty bad. I mean, Hellgate really takes it to him, and he involves a lot of innocence, which keeps Peter from running, which I feel like this is kind of a I won't say a copy of the Moreland and Peter fight, but it feels a lot similar because Peter would try to run from Moreland, and Moreland would get the innocence involved, which would draw Peter back out. And that's kind of what Hellgate is doing in his own way. He's keeping innocence drawn in, so Peter can't run, but they're kind of making him way overpowered because, he talks about every time he takes a hit, he's breaking 2 or 3 ribs at a time. I mean, Joe Kelly has been writing Spider-Man for a little bit. He done it with like the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. It's like Joe Kelly's got this sadistic hate for Spider-Man that he just I mean I just it makes me wonder about how Joe Kelly's childhood was with his pets. I mean, he's got a very focused mind, at least on Peter, on just how bad can we break him. And I mean that part of the lore of Spider-Man is him getting beat down and pulling himself back up, but it kind of takes the shock out of it when you do it almost every issue. So I feel like Hellgate could be just as big a threat without this. I've got 16 bones in my body broke from 3 hits. I mean, it's Moreland couldn't do that. So I don't. I mean, you got to remember Peter spoke Juggernaut and didn't walk away like that. I mean, this is. Uh, I Joe Kelly and Spider Man just do not. They don't go together anymore. Joe Kelly done some good stories in Brand New Days, Timeline, and all this, but this, now that they've just gave him complete reins, oh boy, it his book can't be selling well. It can't. It can't be. But we go on to, you know, Peter tries to get a chance to run again. The police show up here. I mean, you're going to see a lot of this in this issue. Of every time Peter had the chance to get away, there's going to be an innocent showing up for God knows what reason. Just the weirdest time somebody will come showing up. So Hellgate attacks the police, which drives Peter back into it. You know, you got Peter trying to stab him with an axe. You know, talking about how it wasn't even an accident that he used the pointy part of it. So, I mean, now you've got him where he's trying to turn Peter into a killer, basically. But, and I mean, I get that the fight's getting that savage, but I hate to keep going back to Moreland, but it was a better done fight. And even Peter didn't go to the point of killing Moreland. Even he figured a way to beat him without killing him. You know, that becomes somebody else's thing. But Peter goes to leave and he gets hit with a some kind of lamp post or something that, once again, you know, he had 3 or 4 broke ribs from a punch before. Well, now here we are at a big surprise. Talks about his leg being broke now. So he ends up collapsing a bunch of concrete down on top of a Hellgate, and you got this guy. I mean, this guy looks like he's wearing aluminum foil. You got this new hero who's walking out looking like he's wearing aluminum foil, trying to help Spider-Man, and I'm thinking, how did this kid end up getting on the scene? And he ended up beating the Avengers to the scene. He beat the X-Men there. I mean, the flaws with this is just, I mean, holy snap, man! It's just these throwing random stuff out there just to keep him rooted in the battle. Like, the stuff didn't even make sense at this point. He was just anything he could think to throw in there just to keep Peter drawn in the battle. So, of course, Peter goes to keep the kid out of it and gets a whole wall smashed into him. You got Mary Jane, who finds out about the fight going on. And here she is. She's Venom. You would think she would jump out there and try to help him now that she's got superpowers. But you don't see that. But you see a kid in aluminum foil out there trying to help him. I mean, the loopholes in this story are just. But anyway, this is nothing more than just an issue of Joe Kelly just stomping the shit out of Spider-Man. Uh, he keeps saying that Spider-Man is supposed to be somebody who teaches him to go to a higher level, but he's trying to kill him at the same time. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And he's talking to somebody from in the future that told him that he can't kill Spider-Man because that will keep him from reaching where he needs to go. And Hellgate goes to punch him, and it hits to be continued. And it just says Hellgate defeats Spider-Man. I mean, if you're enjoying this Joe Kelly run, then I have to really question if you've read any of these Spider-Man stories from the 90s, the 80s, when Spider-Man was actually good. Spider-Man was my first Marvel character I ever read stuff from. Him and X-Men were my two only Marvel characters I read for years. In fact, Spider-Man, as many of you probably know, Web of Spider-Man 97, no, it was 98, was my very first comic book I ever bought. It was what got me into comics. I bought it from a Food Line spinner rack. That issue would have, if it was put out now, it would kill what's out now. Spider-Man had so much going for him back then, and now Marvel and their writers are trying to shove this current culture stuff on Spider-Man so hard. Like earlier in this run, you've got where Peter's dating this girl who's they're dating, but at the same time she's seeing other guys and they have this open relationship. And I mean, that's so far from what Peter Parker would be okay with, and I can't imagine that May would think any better of it. I mean, that's certainly not how she raised him. I mean, Marvel's got to get their stuff together, man. Spider-Man has been struggling for a long while just because they're trying to keep him and Mary Jane from being together. And the reason they worked so well was because people grew up with Spider-Man. So that was the next progression, was to give him a wife so he could relate with the people that were growing up with him. And, I said it and I'll say it now. There's no kids in the comic shops. Everybody buying comics now are your older people. And we don't want this. This isn't what we want. We don't want a Spider-Man running around, dating some girl that's with every other guy. And I mean, that's not what we're looking for. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I got a whole different video I made about my rants about that, so I'm not going to continue on. But this issue, while I had my differences with it, it was, believe it or not, one of the better issues of this Joe Casey run that I've read so far. Of course, I'm still a whole bunch of issues behind, and I will try to get caught up, but it's going to be hard because I'm not interested in a lot of what Marvel's doing right now. But I'm going to try to bear through it, see if maybe it's got a silver lining somewhere. This actually was one of the better issues of the series so far, unfortunately. Art wise, I like John Romita Jr.'s art. A lot of people are hating on him now, saying it don't look as good. I think it looks as good as it did before. So I'm not hating on the art. I like the art. I think the art's really well done. So I'll give the art a nice solid 8. I feel like it's really good art. I really like how John Romita draws his Spider-Man when he's taking a big beating. You always get your fair amount of blood with the mask. I'm always liked when they would do, where Spider-Man would have, holes in his mask and his costume, something to show that there was some damage done somewhere. So John Romita does a good job with that. He draws action scenes good. So the art's a good solid 8. For this issue, the story is a little wonky sometimes. Like where you have just every 2 pages it's some silly something else to pull Peter into the fight. I felt like that was overdone too many times for reasons that shouldn't have happened. But I'll give the story on this issue a 6 because it was mostly action. The fact about the whole issue was action, which comes to bring me to another point. Where was Black Cat during all this? Him and Black Cat's been running around a lot lately. Where was she during all this? But anyway, so on an average for this issue, it probably gets. I'd give it a 7. A 7. The art saves a lot of it, and the story's not. The story got annoying at the way they kept going back to the same thing over and over. But it was not a terrible read, so I'll give it a solid 7. So this one might be worth reading, and I will do the next review soon enough.